Quasar Markets, it's your boys, Dave and myself, here with the intersection of money and finance, of stocks and politics, of portfolios, and what the heck is going on in the world. That's what we're here to talk about. Big earnings season this week and last week when it comes to the politicianal world, the earnings world, the movement world, data, AI, energy, oil, retail. Everything is moving in its own independent little way right now, which is really fun, pretty cool, and pretty exciting if you are a active trader. The big earnings, I think, really probably for this week is going to be Palantir. They come out tonight. So Palantir, just interested to hear your thoughts on Palantir from like a political perspective. They're kind of the best way to describe what they do is they provide data for political interference, and they use all that is what they do. And so they get a lot of government contracts, and there's been all kinds of government ramblings recently, or some will say.
Palantir. What's my feelings on Palantir? Palantir is wired into governments, and it is all through it's all through the central nervous system of the U.S. government and lots of different governments. And what they do is they combine a lot of data and they present it, and it is pretty dystopian when you look at it, from the outside. And that's where a lot of negative sentiment that's coming up from AI is bubbling. On the political side, the things that are really front and center for people are things like flock cameras and being monitored and all of that world. I think that there's like a general creepiness that we've seen around AI of like, is it taking my job? Sort of like dystopian future stuff. And then there's like the ongoing wars and hearing how humans are being taken out of the decision-making process and people are dying because of it. So like there's this whole thing. And Palantir, regardless of all of the other players out there, they are seen as target number one for this. So it has a huge negative sentiment around it. And so when the AI, it's not controversial to say that we're in an AI bubble. And when that bubble starts to release gas, Palantir is going to be at the top of that. NVIDIA is going to be at the top of that. The ChatGPTs and whoever's gone IPO is going to be at the top of that. And I think there's going to be a political wave that comes up underneath this. It's not going to be in the short term. It's going to be as things sort of bubble along. Like Palantir would be the same negative thing that you hear from people not wanting an AI data center in their backyard, right? So all of that is moving forward, and that's underneath it. So that's Palantir. In the meantime, they're going to make bank. They're just printing it because nobody can get rid of it.
Yeah. And so my, perspective, just from a technical standpoint, is going to be, let me see if I can do a quick little screen share for all the fans out there. Let's do entire screen. Click this, do a share, pull this up. Palantir, here we go. So it's just really, really at a very precipitous location, which is going to be the 100 simple moving average on the weekly chart. This has related to, and actually has been a 40% pullback since October, really, of last year. 40% is pretty diabolical in a good way. It needed to happen. It did happen, and it's here. One of my definitions for a quote unquote bear trend is for a stock to be below the 100 weekly chart. So if we do get a gap down on good earnings, because you are correct, they're going to print fat stacks of cash. We've seen Apple just recently, we'll talk about this in just a moment, Apple gap down on good earnings. So Palantir, if Palantir opens below 117, I kind of think it'll be one of the biggest sell-offs we've had in a while. And that'll be a catalyst for the AI bubble to continue to, as I quote a good friend of mine, release gas. And
kind of like your dog.
And that there is a 50-50 coin flip with that happening. And it's literally all going to be, what does Palantir do on earnings tonight? So very, very interesting to see how it kind of plays out. If, for those of you who may or may not have some positions of Palantir, I would highly suggest some 115 puts for either this Friday or next Friday. And then depending on your cost basis, selling some calls, potentially just to finance it. Because I do think that if we do gap up on earnings, I don't think we're going to get above 145. And if we get above 145, we probably just hit some resistance, kind of chop around for a little bit, and then maybe go higher. But we are at that spot right now where it's like the big do or die for sure for Palantir.
You touched on something that I think is really important, and it's a little bit political and a little bit financial because that's why we're here. One of them is, Apple, right? Like they had a very different experience with their AI discussion there, as did AWS, Amazon, right? Amazon said we're printing money on AI. NVIDIA, we're printing money on AI. Apple said, oh my God, we're running into problems. I think that the story is that it's Apple saying that. We just heard the largest, richest company on the planet saying, hey, we're getting bullied on AI. And I'm like, oh, wait a minute. Like when the biggest guy on the block says this is a problem, that makes me think that the other players, not that they're hiding anything, but that they may not be presenting like the whole thing, saying, hey, like there are real shortages here. There are real issues here. There are real problems here that as negative externalities, that's my fancy word from graduate school.
That was nice. Yeah.
Right. That these are the pieces that are going to come into play when as the gas gets released from your dog AI. The other piece of this, which I think is super critical, is what China is doing. You're seeing a couple of things coming from China. We saw the Kimi 3, version 3, whatever, a couple of weeks ago, where they're doing open source LLMs. They're very efficient. And China says, hey, we don't need you, NVIDIA. We don't need to be spending all this money on this. We're going to do our lesser chips and we're going to run LLMs on them because it's incredibly efficient. Back in my day, back in AOL's day, we built the system for these little tiny, telephones that, barely had any data going through it. So when it went to really fast connections like DSL and fiber, then we were able to stream so much more than when people were sloppy about it. Like right now, the people who are doing the development for your phones and your apps and things, they don't think about something being not on the internet, and they don't think about anything other than having like a 5G plus connection or on super fast Wi-Fi. So that's what we're seeing is this what I'm seeing as a disconnect. Somebody's kind of like everybody's pointing at each other of, things are a bubble and part of it is politics and part of it is the reality of technology. And Apple being the bullied one is crazy.
Yeah, Amazon had its best day in years and Apple had one of its worst. Same week, same AI story, totally different outcomes. Saying that to say, I'll do a quick chart of both of those in just 4 seconds. Here we go. So here's Apple. And I do think that Apple actually is buyable personally, and then Amazon's gonna be shortable. So we're gonna take what happened and flip the perspectives here. Apple did, both companies had amazing earnings. Apple just really scorching it. We did have a gap down. Very, very common though for Apple to have good earnings and gap down on earnings. We just had a previous all-time high at 340. We had the gap down got bought up, and this little blue line is kind of what I think it's probably going to do from here, which is just slowly meander higher after kind of chopping around for a bit. But Amazon right now is gapping up pre-market another 2%. So with it opening here at 277, this is a spot for anyone who does have shares of Amazon to get into a collar. So sell some calls, buy some puts, because the likelihood that get this gap right here actually fills is pretty large. And when I mean fills, like we end up trading back down into that price eventually. And then of course we most likely go higher. But the overall move from where it stands right now looks really nice. Good earnings, good volume, overall trend still intact, and higher highs and higher lows are still occurring on both Amazon and Apple. Google also had a gangbusters earnings. Google gapped down on earnings and printed, again, fat stacks of cash. With Google being down, now it's already up 15% since the gap down on earnings. So if, again, you were able to either A, buy a couple shares of Google when it got down, or buy some call options or do something bullish, it did open at a very interesting spot, which was the 200 simple moving average. It was down 22%. Huge name out there, obviously, and they did quite well. The big one, because we're talking about housing for solving America's problems for the next preceding weeks, is the bond market. So the bond market is blowing past the AI story. Borrowing costs just hit a level we haven't seen since the housing crash, and has nothing to do with the recession, right? The 10-year topped at 4.7%, highest since January of 2025. The 30-year hit 5.28% intraday, which is the highest since 2007. That's 20 years ago.
Yep. So Kevin, friend of the show, his guidance has been, since he's been in the seat of the Fed, has been saying, okay, we're going to let markets do its thing. We're going to say, hey, markets, if you want to play with the rates, you play with the rates. And so this heavy treasury supply fiscal part. So the government has borrowed 1.4 trillion in 9 months. And investors are just saying, hey, we're going to need a larger premium on this, particularly when there's competition for capital, because the AI companies are saying, hey, we need $1 trillion too. And so the Fed isn't really like laying out a policy of any rate cuts or rate raises, even though like 3 of them last week said, hey, we need to raise rates. Really, the underneath this is the markets are saying I'm not going to say that there's trouble afoot, but I think that the bond markets are really, really wild in how that they are pricing in risk going forward. I think that's a little bit of inflation, that's a little bit of war, and that's a lot of hey, there is a lot of demand for capital right now. That's my read. I don't know.
Yeah, well, I think it's an accurate read, my man. Yeah, and again, more blockbuster earnings going out this week. This is the week we find out if SpaceX can go back up to its IPO price of $135, which it's not going to. And if AMD can catch up to NVIDIA's story at all. I mean, AMD's been absolutely just a stock price in March, not of last year, not of the year before, this year, it was at $200 a share.
Wow.
And went all the way up to $560, which is a 177% gain. It's still at $465 right now. And I do think that eventually AMD can make its way down to 400, but yeah, AMD is going to be a very, very interesting earnings season. But with SpaceX, the big one I personally feel like is with the lockup is coming. So 20% of the available shares are going to come available for sale in the next 7 to 12 days on SpaceX.
Wow.
So employees, contractors, owners, and or people who bought in before the IPO who just got extremely rich on paper, I don't have any evidence of why they wouldn't sell. None. So that to me, if you start selling 20% of the available supply, SpaceX probably goes lower. And I do think it goes below $100 in the next few days. And at that point, it actually will start to get, or maybe to feel a little viable around 90 or 80. If anyone out here is watching and you're looking to buy SpaceX, the only suggestion that I have professionally and personally will be just to buy it very low and very slow. So pick up 5 shares here, 10 shares there, 20 shares there, every other couple of days, and just leg into it, because I'm still personally short SpaceX. I think it's still going to go lower. And I think that the analysis has helped a lot of people just either A, protect themselves, or B, just kind of stay clear of the debacle that was SpaceX being worth more than Amazon without any IPO, without any earnings out at all, and without making any net profit.
It's space.
Space is so big.
It's
Speaking
space.
of, right before,
We've got AI on the end of it. It's space and it's AI. Give us money.
Yeah, exactly. It's so big. Space is so big. Before me and Dave got on the podcast, we're talking about a movie that I just watched that he's watched a bunch, which was Project Hail Mary. If you haven't watched it, check it out. Great little film. And again, just talking about the space exploration thing, it just kind of fits right in. But it is to me, as big as space is, we actually forget how big it is. Like the ability to do some things with data centers and with AI and all that stuff in space, cool. But like I've been saying for everyone, it's going to be a lot longer than people think. It's not going to happen in like 6 months, which is what everyone was like, oh, yep, it's going to happen. It's right around the corner. We're going to start putting data centers and AI and like fueling everything and humanoid robots, and we're all going to build. Money's going to become no issue, and everyone's going to just be this opulent. I don't see it. It's not happening. It's too hot. It's now cooling off. But again, will it be viable at some point? Yes. It's just doing what IPOs do, especially large tech IPOs, which is open and then have a crazy rally and then sell off.
There we go. Anything else for this week? What are you looking at? That's a lot to look at. Palantir and SpaceX, but anything else like suiting your fancy? Any previews for what we might be seeing with Steve this week?
I mean, ultimately, I know that AMD is going to be the big front.
Yeah.
AMD has earnings, later this week, Tuesday night, I believe. That one's big. Robinhood just had their earnings, but they had good earnings. And again, the prediction markets and how they're using just tons and tons of people, essentially democratizing finance, like placing it in the hands of whoever wants it at any time. I think is strong. Meta they had great earnings, but again, big gap down on earnings, but Meta seems very viable.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. I mean, the big ones are done.
Yeah.
They came out with their earnings and they're fine. I mean, that's what's
Right.
the reality.
Mag 7 is fine.
the big seven's fine. They're still making astronomical sums of money.
Right.
Microsoft had great earnings. They're back in the race. Everyone's talking about them again, which is cool. And I do think that Microsoft starts to actually go higher. I think that they've bottomed. So saying all that to say, I think the broader markets continue to go higher. We keep printing money. Inflation keeps going up. The cost of borrowing things continues to go higher. And that's why we are definitely going to be discussing this housing issue, because it's a real one, right? As rich as people are getting, they're not feeling richer, because even though their portfolios might be increasing, the cost of living is increasing faster than the equity positions in their accounts.
That's it. That's our Monday. Oh, wait, one last one. Wait, okay. Mitch McConnell, alive or dead?
How is he alive? Is the answer to that question? How is that dude alive?
How?
Yeah.
Not only a proof of life. I think I have to find out if he's been alive for like 3 or 4 years. Like
that is correct.
Not just 30 days. Yeah. All right.
That is correct.
Well, we will put that in the not alive department. Okay. Wrap us up.
Hey, I appreciate you all being here. We're going to have some great guests on Solving America's Problems. We're going to be with Steve. Dave and myself will be with Steve Tuesday and Thursday of this week. Just got back from a little Croatia trip with the family and a bunch of friends. It's going to be awesome to pour into everyone here. And I'm really excited and interested to see what everyone says and thinks and feels about the markets.
That's it.
See you for it.